with more evidence that when it comes to President Trump's approach to immigration, the cruelty is not only the point, it is now the policy. We learned more this week about the treatment of Kilmore Abrego Garcia, the Maryland man erroneously deported to El Salvador in March and returned to the U.S. last month to face federal charges. In a new court filing, his attorneys argue that during his time at the notorious CICOT prison in El Salvador, he suffered psychological and physical torture. Also this week, the first detainees arrived at the Immigration Detention Center in the Florida Everglades that they've named Alligator Alcatraz, matching the rhetoric of the Trump administration. Trump, Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem, and Florida Governor Ron DeSantis attended the opening of the facility that has been criticized over and over again as inhumane and cruel. We should all remember that someone detained by ICE is being held in civil, not criminal custody. That custody is not meant to be a punishment. It's not meant to be punitive. And yet, Trump says he would like to see more facilities just like this.
Well, I think we'd like to see them in many states, really, many states. This one, I know Ron's doing a second one, at least a second one, and probably a couple of more. And, you know, at some point, they might morph into a system where you're going to keep it for a long time.
On Thursday, a group of Florida state Democratic lawmakers were denied entry when they went to inspect the state-operated facility. Just like members of Congress who have been attempting to do the same at these federal facilities, these state lawmakers are allowed by federal law to provide oversight. According to the lawmakers, they were told they could not come in because of safety reasons. They were not told what those reasons were, and more importantly, if the migrants that were inside were also subject to those same concerns of safety. Joining us now, one of those lawmakers who was denied entry, Florida State Senator Shevrin Jones, and a lawyer representing Kilmore Abrego Garcia and his family, Simon Sandoval Moshenberg. He is the head of litigation at Murray Ozario. You know, I want to start with you, Senator, because we've seen this over and over where members of federal Congress are trying to go to these facilities. You guys tried to do the exact same thing, your job, providing oversight. What did you guys see? What were you hoping to see? And what did they tell you when you were there?
Thank you so much for having me, Eugene. Yeah, so listen, under Florida Statute 94423, it gives us that authority to be able to go into any state facility. When my colleagues and I arrived at the facility, we were met by a captain at that time who stopped us and told us that we were not going to be able to go past this particular location. We stood there for quite some time while we asked him if he can go get a higher up, considering the fact that in my 13 years, I had visited multiple detention centers, and this was the first time ever being stopped. Once the captain came and brought his higher up, the higher up called the Florida Department of Emergency Management. They let them know that we were present. They told us that it was unsafe for us to go there. So we went on to ask the question, then if it's unsafe for us to be there, then why is it that we have detainees that are there right now? You just allowed the President of the United States to go there 2 days ago. So now we can't go into the facility either. So we saw that this is not oversight. We saw that oversight only matters when it's respected. If everything inside is lawful, why are you blocking elected officials from being able to see it? Then to make matters worse, the general counsel for the Department of Emergency Management all of a sudden could not hear us on the phone anymore, and she conveniently hung up on us while we were asking those questions. So that's what we was met with when we went 2 days ago.
And, you know, Simon, you're an attorney, and I'm trying to understand something here. The Immigration and Customs Enforcement website says that detention is not punitive. And I wonder how that squares with what we're seeing with this setup that the president and the administration, and there's even a sign, I don't know if you saw it in the B-roll there, that this place they're calling Alligator Alcatraz. How is that a non-punitive facility?
Yeah, it's very clear that none of these measures that they're taking, especially Alligator Alcatraz, they're doing because it actually, increases their operational efficiency or operational capacity or any operational reasons at all. It really is about just scaring the pants off of immigrants, right? The same with using Guantanamo Bay. It's got to be extraordinarily costly for them to be sending folks to the Alligator Alcatraz as opposed to the detention centers that they already have built that are, relatively proximate to the cities where the courthouses are, just like it's got to be extraordinarily expensive for them to be flying folks over to Cuba to maintain them at Guantanamo Bay. The reason is not any operational reason, it's just the message that it sends to immigrants. What they're trying to do is just scare the pants off of people. And I'm afraid to say that it's actually working.
Yeah. Senator, the Miami Herald reported about something that I find extremely shocking, and I think other people will too. It's about the possibility that minors could be sent to this new facility. A 35-page report obtained by the Herald and Times outlining the state's initial draft of minimum requirements for the site shows the level of planning that went into building the facility in an 8-day span. 8 days. The undated records point to a myriad state and federal regulations that facility had to meet before it could open and suggest that there is a possibility children could be among the detainees who could be sent to the facility. So that means that in the preparation of this, according to this reporting, they had to think about, if a kid's here, what are the kinds of ways that we protect this? And in the same kind of 8-day span, all they've been talking about is the Burmese pythons that are there, the alligators that are there. And if you dare leave, where are you gonna go, according to Ron DeSantis? You're gonna get snatched up by these alligators. How do you square that? And what does this mean for your state?
You know what's funny, Eugene? Well, not even funny. You know what's baffling to me is that in 8 days, how a facility could be built when we are still dealing with the rebuilding after 2 hurricanes in the state of Florida. It's amazing to me that in 8 days a facility can be built, that we still have a homeless crisis down in Miami-Dade County. And when asked directly, the state refused to even give us a straightforward answer about not just the 8 days, but also about the individuals who are staying in the facility. But I also want to push back on something that individuals seem to continue to misconstrue, that this is a federal-run facility. Now, I know Florida is participating in the 287G program, which gives the local enforcement the authority to enforce. But here's the truth. DHS is not directing any of these detentions. Florida is acting unilaterally under its 287G authority without federal oversight or the instruction. And the individuals who are inside that facility, some women, some children, some families who've been separated from each other. The reason why my colleagues and I were going there, because if it is a humane place for people to be at, then why not allow for us to be able to see it? So you are correct. We don't know who's in there. The one thing we do know is that the state of Florida will not give us the information that's necessary to show who, what, and why they're doing what they're doing. So my question is, what are you hiding? And why are you hiding from the American people and from Floridians who is paying the tax bill for $450 million by, mind you, that FEMA said that they will not be reimbursing us back for?
Simon, I'm going to play something that the president had to say during an interview on Tuesday. And this is the idea of, deporting U.S. citizens for crimes. This was during his conversation about that facility in Florida. Watch this.
We also have a lot of bad people that have been here for a long time. People that whack people over the head with a baseball bat from behind when they're not looking and kill them. People that knife you when you're walking down the street. They're not new to our country. They're old to our country. Many of them were born in our country. I think we ought to get them the hell out of here, too. You want to know the truth. So maybe that'll be the next job that we'll work on together.
So, Simon, here we have the President of the United States talking about deporting U.S. citizens.
Yeah, I mean, that's the clear implication of everything that they're trying to do by outsourcing their immigration enforcement to foreign countries like El Salvador, South Sudan, right? The administration's fundamental perspective is we can put someone on a plane without even telling them necessarily where the plane is going to. And if we make a mistake, if we deport someone we shouldn't have deported, too bad, there's nothing we can do to bring them back. The Justice Department has just announced that it's going to do a massive denaturalization campaign against people who've obtained U.S. citizenship, right? People who were born in another country and then obtained U.S. citizenship legally, lawfully through all of the lawful processes. And the main way that they do that is just through paperwork errors, right? If someone, put down a little bit of wrong information on their green card application 7 years before they then applied for U.S. citizenship, the Justice Department can try to use that to strip them of their U.S. citizenship in court based on supposed false representations. This is what they're using against Mahmoud Khalil to try to strip him of his green card, because the sort of the First Amendment activity that he engaged in, courts have generally said that they can't strip someone of a green card because of First Amendment activity. So with Mr. Khalil, what did they do? They poured through all of his paperwork with a magnifying glass, and they found on his green card application one job that he failed to list, and they're using that to try to claim that his green card was obtained unlawfully through fraud. That's what they're going to try to do on a massive scale, even to people who've been U.S. citizens for many years.
Simon, you were one of these infamous cases that we've been talking about on here, but you're also a part of maybe the most infamous case at this point when it comes to immigration and what this administration has been doing. Kilmar Abrego Garcia is your client. In a new filing, you guys outlined abuse that he says that he faced at CCOT, and I want to read from some of that. Plaintiff Abrego Garcia was then forced to strip issued prison clothing and subjected to physical abuse, including being kicked in the legs with boots and struck on his head and arms to make him change clothes faster. By the following day, plaintiff Abrego Garcia had visible bruises and lumps all over his body. He also goes on to say Abrego Garcia and 20 other Salvadorians were forced to kneel from approximately 9 p.m. to 6 a.m. 9 p.m. to 6 a.m., with guards striking anyone who fell from exhaustion. During this time, plaintiff Abrego Garcia was denied bathroom access and soiled himself. When you have talked to him about these kinds of things, what else has he been saying? How is he doing? And more importantly, does this help at all in your case?
Yeah, he had no idea that anyone was even fighting for him, because he was being held completely incommunicado in the CCOT prison. He had no idea that his name had become a national cause celeb. When he was pulled out of the CCOT prison to the much less restrictive Centro Industrial prison after his case became sort of famous, he had no idea why that was happening. And literally the first contact he had with the outside world was when Senator Van Hollen came to visit him. And he was told specifically by the people at the prison, don't say anything to Senator Van Hollen or there's going to be big trouble for you. And at no time was he left alone with the senator so that he could actually tell the story. But the thing about Kilmar Abrego Garcia is that it's not that he was deported to El Salvador and then the Salvadoran government sort of decided to arrest him and put him in this jail. He was deported directly to that jail, right? There was a prior arrangement between our government and the government of El Salvador that 3 planes would come and land at a specific date and time, and that those people from those planes would be taken directly to the CCOT jail. Buses were waiting, the names had already been given. An ICE officer was on the bus with the Salvadoran authorities, sort of ticking off names and making sure that they had all the right people. And then all of the treatment that Kilmar describes is quite consistent with a lot of the expert human rights reporting. So none of this should come as any surprise to anyone. He was deported intentionally to suffer that treatment.
We should note that the DHS's response to Kilmar Abrego Garcia's filing on Wednesday, and I'm going to read this. We hear far too much about gang members and criminals' false sob stories and not enough about their victims. Simon, I'm going to give you real quickly, because we have to go, your response to the government's response to that filing.
Yeah, I mean, so they don't deny anything. They just think that it's okay because, as according to them, he's a gang member. He had no due process, right? He was put on a plane. He didn't even know where the plane was going. He had an order from a judge. They could have gone back to that judge and filed paperwork to try to strip that order. They didn't. They chose lawlessness. And it really is just a microcosm of what's happening across the country. There's cases of this nature that no one's even hearing about. It's just more and more every day.
Simon Sandoval Moshenberg, Florida State Senator Chevron Jones, thank you both very much.